Hi, my name is Mike Dillard, and this is Self-Made Man, the podcast for those who want to leave their mark on the world and create a legacy of honor, integrity, and achievement in every aspect of your life. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it is time to forge your destiny. Today's interview is one of my all-time favorites. We're going to sit down with the biggest power couple in fitness, Chris and Heidi Powell. And if they sound familiar, it's because they're the stars of ABC's hit show, Extreme Weight Loss. And together, they've built up a social media following of more than 3 million fans. So my plan for this interview was to dive into how they've built their brand and their business empire over the past few years. And while that is what we end up discussing towards the end of the interview, how they achieved their success was completely unexpected. At the end of the day, what they've built is not a result of effective marketing, it's the result of the relationship that they have together. So when Chris met Heidi, he was completely broke and literally living out of his car. Heidi was divorced with 2 kids, and the last thing that she wanted was a new relationship. But the attitude that each of them brought to the table when it came to their dreams in life and each other ended up being the magic pixie dust that changed everything. There is nothing in this world that has a greater impact on your destiny or quality of life than the partner you choose to spend it with. So what you have here today is really an opportunity to see what's possible when you choose the right person. You're going to have a chance to see the qualities that you want to look for as you hear Chris and Heidi share their story, and you're going to walk away from this interview with a lasting example in your mind of what a world-class relationship looks like and what's possible in life when you find that perfect partner. This is an incredibly valuable interview with so many lessons that will serve you moving forward, so please help me welcome Chris and Heidi Powell. Well, Chris and Heidi Powell, welcome to Self-Made Man. It's a pleasure to finally have you guys on.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's awesome.
To be here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful for the time today. And y'all have such a phenomenal story, not only from just a personal development standpoint and your own relationship story, but also what you guys have been able to build as entrepreneurs that I'm just super excited about our chance to chat today. And I'm sure that we've got quite a few people listening to this who probably know who you are, but don't know your story. And it's one of the best that I've ever heard. So I was hoping we could dive into that here at the start. And please feel free to take us back as far as you'd like, because I think your beginning days for both of y'all, I found to be the most interesting and inspiring, when it comes to your story.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I usually start this one off because, health and fitness was something that I found early on. If we go way back, and I promise I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but this can be a long story, but I'll keep it to a few minutes. I was the smallest kid in school growing up. I was picked on a lot. I was bullied from 4th grade, severely bullied from like 4th grade to 7th grade. 10th grade, we ended up going I moved around a lot. So I was always the new kid. And so when you're the new kid and you're the smallest kid in school, it just definitely lends itself to being a little bit of a target. Moved schools again, 10th grade, tried out for the football team. Was the lightest kid on the field by about 50 pounds and just got crushed out there. My parents had been seeing this happening for years. And they kind of saw how it broke my spirit. So when I was 14 years old, I was just 1 week into the new school and into this new school year. And I came home from school, and they had removed the living room furniture, and just sitting in the middle of the living room was a weight bench. Fortunately, they still left the TV in there. And so I spent a couple of weeks, finding comfortable places to sit on this bench and still watch TV. And after a couple of weeks, I just thought, well, I might as well start messing around on this thing because there's nothing else to do, while I'm watching Leave It to Beaver. So sure enough, it just kind of turned into a challenge for me. Every day I'd come home from school and I'd add a little bit extra weight, and I'd try a bench press or the pec deck, or a lat pull down. We had a preacher curl on there, and so every single day it just became a challenge to add a little bit more weight and see if I could lift it. And after about a month and a half of doing that, at that time, every time I'd look in the mirror, it was to brush my teeth or to do something like that. And I really never paid much attention. And I actually noticed muscles forming on my body. And that was the beginning. And for the first time in my life, quantitatively, I had realized, that I was getting stronger because the weights were going up and it was getting easier and easier when I was lifting, when I was challenging myself just over a month and a half. But then when I looked in the mirror and actually saw my body taking a little bit of shape, it was different, after just 6 weeks. That's when the lid came off, and I immediately ran out, bought every Joe Weider publication you can imagine, Muscle & Fitness, Flex Magazine, and I just dove in. And because for the first time in my life, I felt empowered.
Well, I had no idea. You and I have very similar stories.
Really?
Well, we both found out we're the exact same age, and we're also, I believe, the same height. And I went through an incredible period of being bullied as well. Shortest kid in school through middle school, and my outlet turned out to be cycling. And so I would just come home from school, jump on the bike, hit the pavement, ride 30 or 40 miles a day, and ended up winning 2 Texas State championships.
Wow.
Yeah. So really, that's really cool. I had not heard that part of your story. So that's neat.
Well, and it's something, because in hindsight, I look back to those struggles and those difficult times, but they really helped create and build a character, and that certain drive within to, you're always kind of, throughout life, you're always trying to fill some kind of void, strength and fitness became my identity because of going through those difficult times when I didn't feel strong and I didn't feel fit and I felt weak, and it gave me that power. And it sounds like that was your outlet through cycling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I could certainly appreciate that, Mike. That's awesome. So after high school, I went down to Arizona State University because they had one of the best exercise science and kinesiology schools in the nation, that ASU and Penn State. So I went down to ASU and I ended up getting a degree in kinesiology. Loved every minute of it. It was just incredible. I was blessed to have some of the most amazing professors out there. Then I ended up landing a gig shortly after I graduated from college. There's in another life, at that time, believe it or not, I was a flight instructor because I never saw myself making a living as a personal trainer because there seemed to be so many trainers out there. My dad was a pilot. I totally idolized him. And so I'd been flying since I was 17 years old. But the only caveat here is that deep down inside, I was terrified of flying. I'm okay riding in an airplane, but if I'm flying it, I don't trust myself at all. And I've had way too many close calls. And of course, here I am. I'm actually like instructing people how to fly airplanes. And I did that for years through college. And so deep down inside, it was something I never loved to do. And after I would land, I would drive to the gym, and I was moonlighting as a personal trainer because that's what I really love to do. So I did that for years. And then I actually had an airline interview on September 13th, 2001. So needless to say, after 9/11, that my airline interview was canceled, and I found myself, I had a degree in exercise science. I loved fitness, but at the same and I knew I couldn't get a job with the airlines for a couple of years. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe this is a sign. This is someone telling me that I should follow my passion. So on September 12th, I walked into the local gym and I just said, hey, I got a degree as in exercise science. I'm certified as a personal trainer. I absolutely love this stuff. And of course, I got a job. But within like a month and a half there, I had a waiting list of 30 to 40 people because I was that trainer in the gym that was so passionate about it. I love to teach people. So very quickly, me and one other trainer there, we partnered up. We went to another gym. We bought out the training rights. We started our own personal training company, and it started taking off, and it was doing really, really well. And I said, well, you know what? We need to let more people know that we're here. And so how do we get the word out? And one day I said, you know what? I drove down to the local TV station, KTVK, News Channel 3, and I walked right up to the front desk, and I just said, hey, is there a producer around here that I can talk to? And they pointed me to the desk of this one woman. I walked over and said, I've got a degree in exercise science. I absolutely love training. I've got some great ideas for some segments. Would you give me a shot? And she looked at me. She said, nobody ever just asks for that. Okay. I'll get shot in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, I was doing a segment as the fitness guy on the morning news. And for the sole reason that I just asked for it. You know, I mean, she said, nobody ever just walks in here and asks to do a segment. Okay, yeah. And so huge lesson learned for me that it's just the power of the ask.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want something, go out there and get it. And so, fast forward, I ended up being the fitness guy for 7 years on KTVK News Channel 3 for Good Morning Arizona. So every Monday morning I would go on and I do these tips and tricks on, how to lose weight, how to run a faster 40, blah, blah, blah. So, but about a year into my gig on Good Morning Arizona, maybe about 6-7 months in, I started receiving more and more emails from individuals in the area. It's a statewide broadcast that were 400, 500, 600 pounds. And this is back in 2002, 2003. And so that you just didn't see a whole lot of that on television, except maybe a documentary here and there on Discovery about super obese individuals. And they started emailing me and saying, the doctor says I've got 5 years left to live. I've got diabetes. I've lost my leg. All these different things that are happening. And I didn't even realize that there's a subculture of individuals out there that pride themselves on being invisible. And they say, I only come out at night because I don't want people to laugh at me. I haven't even been out of my house in 2 years. And you hear some of these stories and it just breaks your heart. And one letter in particular really spoke to me, and it was a gentleman who was just a year older than me, and he was 26. I was 25 at the time. And he wrote to me and said, I've been watching you for 6 months now, and I'm just asking for help. I don't know if you can help me, but I'm 635 pounds. The doctor said I'm not going to live to see 30, and this isn't the life I've wanted for myself. He said, I'm slowly dying, and I've wanted so much more. I want to fall in love. I want to have kids. I want to experience life. And so I thought about it for about a week. I really didn't know what to do. And then I just called him up one day, and he left his number. So I called him. I said, I'd like to come over to your house, and I just want to sit and meet with you. So I drove over to his house. We sat down, and 10 minutes later, I was like, this guy is he's a stud. He's so cool. Great sense of humor. I said, dude, I have no idea where this is going, but I'll see you on Tuesday. I ended up showing up every other day for 2 years, and he ended up losing over 400 pounds.
Wow.
Became one of my best friends. In fact, we ended up living together for 2 years after that. So I helped him, he lost all the weight. I helped him get certified to be a personal trainer, got all the surgeries for him, 5 surgeries, got his teeth done and his eyes. And he just turned out to be this incredibly good looking guy, was one of my best friends. And he kept the weight off. I mean, it was amazing. So it was a two-year journey for him to lose the weight. And then a couple of years later, after all these surgeries, he ended up posting his before and afters on MySpace. So I know that you're 40, so you know what MySpace is. And it went viral.
Yeah, you said leave it to Beaver earlier.
I did say that.
MySpace now.
I did.
Dated yourself.
I totally did. But that's what was on when I would come home from school, believe it or not. And so, so he posted on MySpace and it went viral. And within 2 weeks, we were on Oprah, the Today Show, 2020. And at that time, I was going through a really tough time in my life, believe it or not. And it was crazy because we're getting this amazing national exposure. But in the process, I mean, I am definitely an entrepreneur at heart, but I'm terrible at business. And so I am this dreamer, and I love to create, and I see all these gaps in the industry where innovation can fill those gaps. I just don't know the business side of things. And so I
think better put, you're not so great at business operations, but
right.
Business creation and development, you are brilliant.
That's my thing.
I can appreciate that. I'm the same. Creating is what I love to do. Actually managing anything, projects, any of that, a calendar is definitely my weakness. Yeah.
You and me both, brother. So through this time, I had tooled a factory in China. I had invented a product. I sent everything over there, and I borrowed a couple $100,000 from several people. and then I had actually sent over about 130,000 of my own money to run this product in China. We ended up making 12,000 units. They sent the first container back, and I opened it up, and my heart dropped because it wasn't the product that I had ordered. They had totally messed it up. And I went back to them. I said, guys, this isn't what was approved. And they said, well, that's too bad because you can't enforce a contract. And I basically fell into, then I found myself in a couple $100,000 of debt with product I couldn't sell. It was my dream to create this. It was a nutrition product to teach people how to eat by colors and numbers, because nutrition is a complex thing. But when it comes to like behavioral modification, people need tools. And so it was a tool I genuinely believed in. And, so I found myself in an incredible amount of debt with absolutely nothing. I was going through my own personal problems at the time, and I lost everything. I ended up couldn't afford rent anymore. So I packed my bags and I just put a duffel bag in the back of my car, and I spent 6 months driving around, sleeping on people's couches, just figuring out how I was going to get back on my feet. And found myself out in, I tried running away from my debts and my problems, which doesn't work very well. So I ended up going out to California thinking, well, maybe I'll get a fresh start out here. And I'll just try training and kind of see where it goes from here. And I was only out there for about 2 weeks. I just couldn't get my feet underneath me. So I packed my duffel bag back up. And on the way out of town, I stopped at a tattoo parlor because I knew I needed something to live for because I just lost everything. And so I ended up tattooing the Roman numerals 1 through 1,000,000 down my side. And it's 1, 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and 1,000,000. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but somehow by the time I leave this earth, I want to make a positive impact in 1,000,000 lives. And as people thank me for making that impact, I'll just cross them off.
That's cool.
It started with 1 because I knew I had to fix myself first, and I had to basically face the, kind of just face the reality of the hole I dug myself into. So I got the tattoo, drove back to Phoenix, and I ended up going back to my buddy who I had helped lose the 400 pounds. His family opened up their doors to me. They let me sleep on their couch for 3 months while I got back on my feet. And while I was living at their house, I ended up just diving into self-improvement and self-help, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins. And I ended up signing up for a self-improvement seminar where on December 5th, 2008, I showed up for that very first day of a self-improvement seminar, and I saw this amazing, beautiful blonde woman with the most incredible biceps I'd ever seen in my life. And I actually, so I'll let her kind of take it from here. But my pickup line was a little corny, but it was so genuine.
It actually, well, and the funny thing is, at the time I thought it was a pickup line. I don't know if you've heard this already from anyone, but I really did think it was a pickup line. And now knowing him, it wasn't. But I just remember bending over, grabbing some food out of my container or out of my lunchbox, because we were the only 2 people in the entire seminar that actually brought our lunches because we were health conscious. And I grabbed it, and someone from the back behind me was like, I want to know what you did to get those biceps. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I looked at him and I'm like, oh, that meathead. I saw him sitting across the room. And so I kind of that was actually day 2 of a 3-day seminar, but I spent the rest of the time kind of trying to avoid him because I didn't, just where I was at, which I'll give you a little background. I didn't want some, I had definitely stereotyped him, and I thought for sure with the biceps, and he was like perfect looking on the outside, blue eyes, model face. I'm like, oh, he's a box of rocks. Like, I really did not think you had any depth. I should not have done. That was a lesson. Do not judge a book by its cover right there. But so but yeah, just rewinding a little bit. And I will say this, that was the beginning of so much for both of us. We both had been through so much up to that point. I don't think we necessarily had hit our rock bottom in life, because I think we've had another couple rock bottoms since. right? But together, and just kind of, because life is tough. Life is full of a lot of rock bottoms, but that was probably the most defining rock bottom we had been through, and a point where I feel like we were definitely there will always be a life before meeting Chris and a life after meeting Chris. Like if someone actually once told us there's a defining moment in every single person's life where like, it's almost like life is separated into two, like before this event and after this event. And truly, me and Chris meeting up, at least for myself, is that defining moment.
Me too.
It's like when I feel like the second you stop looking for the answer to all of your problems, you stop looking outside of yourself and you actually start looking within to see what you can fix yourself, is actually when everything starts to come together. And that was for me. I was so busy, focusing on, my marriage had failed. I'm a single mom of two, this person, this. And I was so busy looking outside of all the things that hadn't worked in my life. I never stopped to look at what I wasn't doing that was, or, what was maybe not necessarily broken, but what could be fixed and improved within myself. And the second I started looking inside instead of outside is really when all the right pieces started coming together. Just a little bit of backstory on me. My story's not near. I was never a pilot. I didn't tattoo down my side and, create a vision. Mine's a little more boring, but I grew up in a really fit family, awesome parents who loved me and told me every single day how beautiful and amazing and capable and, like every parent does. They did such a great job reminding me how worthy and worth it and lovable I was. But it was up to me I didn't see it that way. I saw how fit they were. I saw how beautiful they both were, how loved they were by their community. And for me, I chose to see that as I wasn't good enough and I could never reach that bar. They really, great parents took me to the gym because they thought they were helping. I saw that as, I'm not good enough. They're taking me to the gym when I'm young because I need to improve. And so I actually just, through a series of injuries, and I was always a gymnast growing up and a cheerleader, I ended up finding my way down a really, really destructive, over a decade of eating disorders, everything from anorexia to bulimia to, really the most devastating of it all was simply body dysmorphia. And for me, that carried into my first marriage, which by the way, I was a trainer right out of high school because I was, so much into fitness. I loved it. I loved changing people's lives and helping. But when it got to a point that my eating disorder was so bad, I really couldn't focus on anything in life. It is truly, I don't know if anyone listening has suffered or had an eating disorder, but it's like a drug addiction, and it messes with your chemicals in your brain and, really your hormonal balance in your body, and your hormones control everything. I was a different person. I went from being a straight A student to failing classes in college. It was just insane. My life revolved around my problems. Again, I ended up getting married. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my first child that I started changing my habits and my actions, because I realized I'm growing this child inside of me. And if I'm growing a baby, I need to make sure that the foods that I eat are what I actually want my baby to be made of, because that's what happens. Everything we eat is what creates our children. So that temporarily band-aided, I think, my eating disorder for a while until I had the baby. And then it came back with a vengeance and had baby number 2, and marriage fell apart after that. And my kids are everything to me. But life as a single mom was definitely extremely difficult for me. More than anything, not because my ex-husband wronged me, not because of, I couldn't handle raising 2 kids on my own, which I had his help, but more than anything because I had a huge identity crisis. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, like when my kids are at their dad's every other weekend, I'm faced with silence that makes me kind of figure out who I am and what am I responsible in my life, and am I responsible or is everyone else responsible? And that ended up landing me in that self-improvement seminar. I actually started seeing a therapist that was like, I can help you every single day, but until I want you to do this crash course, come back to me, and then we'll start working through stuff from there. And I went like very excitedly, and I had been through a series of relationships in a short period of time after my marriage that, you know, definitely shined a spotlight on a lot of my personal weaknesses. And so I was ready to be out of relationships and just be friends with men, nothing else. And then I met Chris. And it again, like this meathead, I was running
irresistible.
Did you guys just kind of know, right? Like immediately, did you just know, or did you have to give it time to figure out that you felt a certain way about each other, or was it just instant, right?
So I'll answer this and you can tell me if I'm wrong.
I'll agree with you, I'm sure.
Well, okay. Yeah, I think you will. He's like, wait, that's not. So for both of us, we both had so many walls up at the time. So many. It literally took until the final night. It's a 3.5-day seminar. The final night when we actually, and luckily we were there focusing on ourselves, learning how to break down our walls, learning the power of vulnerability, and like starting from scratch, getting rid of all of that baggage, unloading it, telling people what we, you know, confession kind of a thing, and rebuilding from there. So from day one, we both had spoken to each other on that level, but we were both very clear. I remember I had to give him a ride back to his car on the last day because he had parked so far away. And that's the first time we actually, you know, got to talking to each other. And I remember he was literally like a scared little boy up against the door of my car. Like he thought I was going to pounce on him. And I was the same way. Like I was just like, oh gosh, what's this guy want from me? He wants, because you're programmed to kind of believe that everyone in your life wants the same thing. Like if I think men only want sex, you know, in my mind, I'm like, this guy right here just wants, you know, to take me home tonight kind of a thing. That's, even though that's not the truth, it's what I learned.
I was like pawing at the door, trying to unlock it and get out.
But I remember talking to him in the car and he was like, okay, right off the bat, I just have to tell you, my vision means more to me than anything, than any relationship. Like he was so clear, and I loved his honesty. He also was like, I'm broke as a joke. I have no money. I mean, I live
out of my car. I have nothing to offer you.
You had just moved out of your car. And we both had a chance that night. We were right away. I thought he was hilarious because he was so honest and cute. He's funny without knowing he's funny, which is like the best kind of funny.
Thanks,
and I just, to me, like there's so much beauty in honesty, because I don't know how many times, like how many people I had dated and been around that were $30,000 millionaires. They wanted to look on the outside like they had everything. And then it's like bait and switch. Like the second, not that you are ever after the money, but to me, it's like, just be you. And he was so him and so real. So right away, I will say this. I knew that night in the car, and I will get emotional saying it, but I knew that guy was going to be in my life forever. I did not at all. To me, he was so far from marriage material, especially because I had 2 kids and I didn't want anyone else coming into their lives because I had already kind of been through my thing. But I knew I wanted his energy. You know, you can just feel people.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted his energy in my life forever. And that was kind of when we actually only exchanged email addresses because we both were just ridiculously guarded. And we exchanged email addresses, which was probably the most beautiful thing we could have done, because every communication, which was daily, was we got to know each other on like a soul level, a very different level from even like what he was doing business wise and what, you know, I was doing, to who we are and what made us, and our thoughts and kind of how we felt, like literally exploring the depths of the universe. We didn't end up hanging out until a couple weeks after that, which I think we only got each other's number that day. And, we hung out because he wanted, I also could tell, like just being real, Mike, he was broken and I was completely a fixer. And and I'm like,
very true.
Oh, I could totally fix him. Like his car needs to be repossessed. Like his windows don't roll up. I can fix him. He's in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Like that happens to be my strength. I love when he said he doesn't like how he does business. I love the business side of things so much. And so naturally I'm like, let me help you. Like and And you were the one, you're like, gosh, I'm doing this fitness thing. Why don't you come be a part of it with me? So it kind of started on a business level, like our quote unquote, we call it our first date, but it was me going over to his house and doing a workout to kind of start getting his business reorganized. And I worked for free every single day because I had a job, not a job, but I actually was self-employed. And so I made sufficient money for my family on the side. And so I would carve out 4 to 6 hours a day where I'd go over and help him clean up his life. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. Like there was
fixing him.
we didn't even kiss for like 3 months.
Well, no, false.
2 months.
False. You kissed me right off the bat. And then I said, we can't kiss anymore. Remember that? And then you left.
You got stuck in the friend zone, brother. Come on.
I did. Well,
so you went out of town to your family and then you kissed another girl because I told you I didn't want to kiss you anymore.
And that was your wake up call to like, okay.
Hold on. She's going over at me now. So
was that so Heidi, for you, was that your wake up call to like, hey, back off, this is your mind kind of a deal, or what did that do for you?
When he would, you know what? No, because the thing is, we weren't really dating at the time at all. Like it was, we had kind of, obviously there's an attraction because he's a very attractive person. And anytime you get to know someone at such a deep level, you are attracted even more. But we were both really good at checking ourselves. And that was, for us, there was like one quick little moment where like, you know what? No, like we both have a lot going on. Chris's vision was and he was so clear about it. He said, I don't know if I want to get married. I don't know if I want to have kids right now. Like my vision and changing, like I have 1 million lives to save and to help. And that's what I want to do first and foremost. And for me, I was like, hey, I want to take care of my kids. But I can help you get to where you want to go. Me giving my time to him was almost like me giving back, as crazy as it sounds. I felt like I was contributing to something bigger and better. And I fed off of his ability to dream. Like he dreamed so big. Like there were so many times and things he would tell me that and deep down, I'd be like, gosh, I don't know if that's possible. But on the outside, I would say, I know you can do it. Like even whether I thought it was possible or not, I knew if anyone had a chance at achieving it, it was this guy because he believed so much. Chris had the ability and still does to rally people like I've never seen before. And I will say 9 out of the 10 things on his list of what he wanted to do and he dreamed so huge for actually have happened. Like this, I'm telling you, he has the craziest manifestation skills you've ever seen in your life. Like he speaks it, but because he speaks it so passionately to so many people with so much belief, it's like everyone is enrolled and people, whether they deep down believe it can happen or not, they start moving in the direction because number one, it's so generous and altruistic, like what he wants to do. And number two, they don't want to let him down. Like people just move when Chris is around.
That's cool.
It's the truth.
It has been a wild ride, needless to say. That's for sure. But I must say,
the relationship didn't start for about 4 months after that, really.
True. Because, you were actually, there's a guy that Heidi was dating at the time. And I remember kind of talking her through it. At one time, she's like, I don't know if I really like him. I'm like, well, give him a second chance. And so we really were friends. But at the same time, I was terrified of the fact that she had 2 kids and I was a bachelor. And so it was just, we had mutual respect for each other. The fact that when I get passionate about things, I can definitely rally people, but nobody believed in me and my vision more than Heidi. And especially because here I am like passionate about my vision, but I lost everything. I was coming from nothing. I was living out of my freaking car and she still believed. And she would tell me every day that I'm going to do great things. And I needed that because I lost that belief in myself and I found myself rallying people when I didn't even believe, and I wanted it so bad. And I deep down, I knew it could be possible, but I had just been beaten down by life so many times.
You were jaded.
I was broken.
Remember you telling me.
I was really, really broken.
Yeah.
And then finally she came along and she believed, and which was for me so amazing. And not only that, but she also knew how to structure and she knew how to help. And so it was the moment where the dreamer met the doer. And when we teamed up and actually started working together, the chemistry was synergistic. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And within 6 months, a production company had come out from the UK. They ended up shooting a documentary on me and David's friendship. And David's my buddy that lost the 400 pounds, turned into like the #1 documentary on TLC that year. And then from there, it was just like one thing after the next. All these opportunities started happening, and not only would the opportunities happen, but like, so we would go after those openings, but then we could create from there as long as Heidi and I were working together. And so, within 2 months of the documentary airing, I ended up getting a call from a friend out in Los Angeles who was a casting producer. And she's like, dude, I saw your documentary. Congratulations. It's so cool. And I said, well, thanks so much. We're actually, in fact, at the time, Heidi and I were planning to bring more people to Arizona to help them through transformations. I said, well, hey, we're going to be doing a lot more of these transformations. Do you guys want to film it? Because she worked for a production company, and her production company was actually the one that started The Biggest Loser. And so she says, hold on, let me talk to my boss. Within an hour, her boss calls and says, hey, I'd like for you guys to come out to Los Angeles. I want to talk to you. So sure enough, we ended up driving out to LA because we couldn't afford to fly at the time. Went back and forth to LA about 3 times over a couple months, sat down with their development team and just mapped what we do to help people transform their lives. Just mapped the whole thing beginning to end and told them, if we're going to do this right, we need to take a full year and help these people truly transform. And, so after 3 meetings going back and forth to Los Angeles, we ended up going back to Arizona and just started, life as usual again, having been the consultants on the development of a show. And they went out and they were going to try to sell it. Didn't hear anything for 3 months. Then got a random phone call out of the blue one day, and it was the CEO of the production company. He's like, dude, we sold your show. I'm like, nice. Awesome. Who'd you sell it to? And I was thinking like a cable network, so something like that. And he's like, well, there was actually a bidding war, and there was between a couple networks, but ABC ended up winning. ABC bought your show. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, that's fantastic. Go team. And we were just so proud to have actually consulted on the development of the show. But then there was like this long silence after it because I was like, oh, dude, that's great. Congratulations. Go team. And he was silent, almost like because he was puzzled by my response. And he's like, well, dude, aren't you happy? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm happy. So what does it mean? Like, who's the guy? And by saying who's the guy, I wanted to know who it was that was going to host the show, because we were creating the show for a celebrity trainer like Bob or Harley Pasternak. And so they've been throwing around all these different names of celebrity trainers that we could put on the show. And he said, well, they didn't want anybody else but you. So I was like, what? He said, yeah, they just saw a bunch of clips of you and they think that your heart's in the right place and you genuinely want this for people. And I was like, well, I do. This is what I'm here on earth to do. He's like, well, awesome. Pack your bags because you're leaving in 5 weeks.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome.
That was the beginning of the show, and it was an amazing 5-year run on ABC, and our show ended up in the process was just a couple years ago sold into syndication. So it's on TLC and Discovery. And then they ended up packaging the show and selling it around the world. It's actually in 148 countries around the world now.
Wow.
Amazing. And so, but through the whole process, it was me and Heidi working side by side through the whole thing, just the dreamer and the doer working together to help these people change their lives. And it's just been such a blessing for us. And it's been the wildest of rides.
So I've got so many questions, and I'm bummed because I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, gosh darn it, this is going by fast. So you guys, have obviously had a ton of success so far, but you're both building your own individual, brands essentially and audiences, and then you have what you do together. And it's like doing one of those alone is hard enough, and you guys are doing all of that, and you've got 4 kids that you're raising as well. How are you doing it?
Some days I feel like we're not doing it too well. But then I shouldn't say not doing it too well. Some days I feel like we're letting a lot fall through the cracks. And the reality is we could always do more than we are doing to kind of keep all of the brands strong and maximize opportunity and potential. But we are just two people. We do the best we can. We do have an incredible team of people behind us that help, that we've just over the years, it's like you kind of drive your bus and you find out which people you want on the bus and which ones you don't. And we have people where their hearts are all in the right place. They're willing to work long hours when they need to and not complain, work for the greater good. They're just so grateful, and we're so grateful for them.
I must say, as we speak, we've got 6 of our team members. We're in our home right now, and our kids are running around outside the door. We've got 6 of our team members right here. We've got some other, one of our customer service girls is right outside the door. So she's got access to us at all times. My buddy, David, who lost the 400 pounds, he's actually sitting out in our living room as we speak right now doing customer service as well, because he's living out in our casita. And we've just surrounded ourselves with really good people that help make the whole thing happen, because we couldn't do it by ourselves. We absolutely could not.
Yeah. But the reality is our brands are very, I think real is the right word. It's not something like I will say the best compliment we can get is when people meet us out and about in an airport, at the grocery store, wherever it is, people always say, oh my gosh, you're the same person in real life or online or social media. That's huge to me. And it's so freeing because I don't have to be anyone else. So there is never really a layer of putting on a mask and having to, be someone different. But I also know there was a while there where our brand was kind of, Chris and Heidi's brand, not Chris and Heidi's, but they started introducing me into the show because they saw what was going on behind the scenes. And there was a moment where our team our publicist actually gave us the best advice. And they said, look, I know your value, Heidi, but the world is not. They're going to look at, they're automatically going to group you and Chris together. You need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, both of you separately, to make what you guys are doing together the most powerful. So take a little bit. Let's figure out who is Chris? Who is Chris Powell as a person? Who does he want to be as a brand? How does he want to inspire people? And then who are you? Who's Heidi Powell? And figure that out. And then you guys can come together and really continue to create change, but with your own independent strengths. And I was grateful for that because it has forced us both to pour a lot of time into ourselves and our own brand, and really, consequently has made us stronger together. But then with a family, that is, again, luckily our brand is our reality too, because what you see is what you get. Our kids are involved in almost everything we do, even on the show. It's like what the show didn't capture were our kids at the high school track with us doing bleachers and 20 people at a time that we were training. So our family, the people on the show become a part of our family. Anyone we work with becomes a part of our family. Just like Chris said, David, the guy, he's, lost 110 pounds in the last 6 months, something like that. He lives with us. He lives with our family. We take business very, very, very personally.
I'm just picturing all of this as you're describing it. It's amazing what you can build these days online just by being yourself. And obviously you guys at the center of everything you do is really with a heart and a mind of service above all else. Can y'all describe what your days look like, as essentially founders and CEOs of your businesses? What do you do these days versus what does your team do?
All right. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so
we do fill different roles.
Yes. So I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna start my day I'm gonna go from midnight to midnight, because that's kind of how my days run on a different kind of clock. So we've started a couple years ago. We ended up creating an app, a smartphone app, the Transform app, and which a year and a half of development, we finally released it, and it's been amazing. The response and the community has just been mind blowing. It's been so rewarding for us. But the the development of that technology never ends. And so I've actually we've got teams here in America and another team in India. So usually starting around midnight, well, I actually start around 9 p.m. at night, and I'll get on with our development teams in India, and I'll work with them till about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we're going back and forth on just, future iterations and evolutions of the app. We're working on 2.0 right now. So I'll usually go to bed around 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll sleep for 4.5 hours, 4 hours and 40 minutes. I'll wake up at 6:40, get the kids up and ready for school. Usually then Heidi and I will tag team here. Half the time I'll take them to school, and then I'm back at the house around 7:40, and then I'll lay down and sleep for another 2 hours. Then I wake back up. Fortunately, my office is right here in the house, and so I just kind of cruise over to the office. I open up my laptop, and I start working on, again, more iterations for the app. And then we're building out a whole coaching program right now, and so I'll usually take about 2 to 3 hours working on a coaching program. Throughout that time, our little 4-year-old will run into my office and out, and I'll usually take breaks maybe every 30 to 45 minutes to play with her just for a few minutes, kind of take my mind off things and refresh. Then usually, we'll have 1 or 2 afternoon meetings, 2:30, 3:30. Once about 3:30, 4 o'clock rolls around, the kids are back from school, and it's time for them to get off to their daily activities. And so we'll divide and conquer from there. We'll have Heidi going one direction, me going in another direction. Then we have a nanny going another direction. So it'll be gymnastics, Muay Thai, dance. It'll be football, piano, or voice for the kids. And then when we drop them off at those things, we'll usually sit in the car and we'll work on our phones, coming up with like a social post or something like that. And then back at the house, everyone around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then 9 o'clock, I'm back on with our development team out in India again. So that's usually my days, Heids.
I'll keep this a little bit simpler because Chris's days are a lot easy. Like they're very routine, believe it or not.
Very routine.
Unless we're traveling. We're traveling. Obviously, we have shoot days, and I would say half of our days are spent doing random things. Like we do have, business people that will come in town, and we'll have to spend all day with them. Not have to, but get to spend all day with them strategizing. But those are Chris's normal days and very predictable. I always know where I can find him. So Chris actually leads. He's on a couple different levels. Number one is visionary in a creative way, where I am visionary in the business way, right? And in strategy. So he's very visionary creative. I'm visionary there are two different things. We can kind of see the matrix in different areas. He then his other place he spends most of his time is in the weeds, putting together the nuts and bolts, because he wants the base of the engine to be exactly what he wants it to be. And then from there, everything we do is completely scalable. So a lot of people will look at what he does and think, oh my gosh, you should hire people for that. But the reality is, if we don't build the machine exactly like we want, and if at least one person doesn't know every single operational piece, we can't scale it. But once it's created, once it's invented, once we know it creates change in other people's lives, we can take that and multiply it. And that's what we've been able to do. For me, I don't spend my time there on a computer all day. I am on a computer, but mine is very much overall strategy on operational. I could not tell you any day what my day is going to look like until the day of. And I have a calendar that I follow to the T, and it's loaded each and every day. But my days shift so much between managing and operating and organizing the multiple businesses that we have, making sure Chris's vision is carried out, making sure what he wants, we have the pieces in place, and then also managing our home and our 4 kids and making sure they're in enough sports. And is so-and-so being bullied at school? Okay, how do I do? I mean, like, it's very, I am the overall, I can kind of see the entire picture from a 100,000 foot perspective. And I feel like I'm an orchestrator. I am constantly, okay, you do this. Okay, I need to go down and do this. Okay. It's just very much keeping the ship
Heidi
running.
Keeps everything running. That's for sure. And allows us to dream and the teams to work.
And then I maybe get about 5 hours of sleep a night, which is not good.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that. But
right now, where we are in the building phase, it sometimes, balance is something we haven't found. It's something we're always working toward. But nevertheless, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to fit in everything that needs to happen in those 24 hours.
I've realized, sorry to say, but we're never going to fit in everything we need.
No.
And I've had to come and to the realization and accept the fact that my inbox is always going to be full. So for me, it's about prioritizing and trying to capture the most important pieces. And if I can't capture, which I can't capture delegating as much as I can below there. Delegation has been very difficult for me, but it's been something that has been life-changing too. I am very much a control freak. I like things done my way, and not just my way, but in my mind, I think my way is the best way. And it's not always.
Have y'all ever come across the book Rocket Fuel?
No.
So you're the living example of the rocket fuel concept, which is essentially bringing together a visionary with an integrator. Oh. So the person with the vision partners up with the one who gets it done and implements it, and that's your rocket fuel, and that's when the rocket takes off to the moon, right? And so it's a very short little book that's absolutely fantastic. And then they've got an entire support product and structure in place to help you identify your other half, if that's the stage that you're at, or if you found them, how to communicate effectively, maximize both of your strengths, and recognize the differences between you so that there's a positive interaction instead of a sticky one, if you will. You guys have obviously figured it out on your own, but I think that would be really interesting for y'all to see essentially what you found together from a relationship standpoint. It just happened to be that way from a business standpoint as well.
That's really, I'm going to have to read that.
Yeah.
We'll say people ask us all the time. They're like, gosh, what's it like to work with your spouse? I could never do that. But for us, I feel like there's such 99.9% of the time we have, the small times where it's opposite, but we really do acknowledge and appreciate the other's strengths and accept the fact that that's one of our weaknesses, personally. So really, Chris's strengths are my weaknesses and my strengths are his. Mm-hmm. And instead of spending so much time trying to be everything, I know he is could I learn how to be a little more, creative and figure out these? Yes, I could. But do I need to? No, because he's so good at it. I'll spend my time and my effort over here managing this because I know he doesn't like it. Could he figure it out? Yes, but he doesn't like it, and he trusts me and knows I'm going to do the best that I can. And if I can't do it, I'm going to find someone that can.
Yeah.
So having a respect definitely helps that. And there is not another person on earth that I would want to work with every day, or that probably I could. He is like, he is my other half. And that trickles into relationship too. It's the same.
Fortunately, personality wise, there's not a whole lot of overlap, but I see how for other entrepreneurs out there can be. So that's why it is so important for them to identify each other's strengths and weaknesses as they're coming together in a partnership, because that overlap can definitely cause some strife.
Yeah.
And understanding the roles and responsibilities that each party has to come together and create something truly amazing. Yeah.
It's interesting. I've had 2 business partnerships as I've gone through my career as an entrepreneur. And one of the mistakes that I made that I now recognize in large part thanks to this book is that I ended up partnering with other visionaries. And you're like, oh yeah, you see the opportunity I see. You have these ideas. We can make it even that much better. And the problem is you end up with 2 captains on one ship, and one wants to steer a little left, other a little right, and you end up just going in circles, or off just, who knows where. And then there's nobody there to really get it done. And so you guys I'm super jealous that y'all have managed to find that role with each other business wise and in a relationship, which is just awesome. But for those who are listening and you want to get a better understanding of y'all's dynamic, go pick up a copy of Rocket Fuel. And we've also got an interview on the podcast, so you can look up by Mark Winters, who is the author of The Process. But that's so cool. Well, I'm glad you guys just kind of found that natural fit with each other, and that's just awesome. Like, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, we are absolutely blessed. I mean, it took just a couple months, which is a really short span of time, especially for us to identify that. But we worked and we literally came together like two pieces of a puzzle so perfectly. And of course, when that happened, anything became a possibility, whatever it is that we want to do. And what we've never dreamed so hard and worked so hard at the same time.
That's
so
awesome.
if for anyone out there listening, if you can find that match, hang on, seriously, but buckle up, because it's a wild ride from there.
And even if you can't, I think naturally we always look for our soulmate, right? And I think they're out there in some way. And not that there's only one, there might be multiple, but I think for me, if I didn't have Chris, I would naturally look for, if it's not one person, other people that can fulfill my strengths. So I think even if people are out there listening and they're struggling to find their other half, it's like, okay, well, for the time being, can you find two people that make up those quarters, like two quarters, to help you accomplish what you want to? It's like, just because that other half isn't there doesn't mean you shouldn't be actively working toward your goal.
Right. Well, and what I was talking about is not necessarily like looking for a significant other as an other half, but like the other half, like in your business entrepreneurial mind, like to find that person to go. Yeah.
Well, I want to be respectful of y'all's time, and I know we're at the top of the hour here. So one of the things that you mentioned briefly earlier that I want to bring up again, because I actually just downloaded it a minute ago, is the Transform app. So give us, if you could, a 60-second summary about what that is and who should get it and why.
Oh, gosh. So, well, we ended up building what we truly believe is the most robust transformation experience ever created. We were so tired of just working with 15 people a year. We needed to create the journey of transformation for tens of millions of people. So we built the app, over 1,000 videos into this app, over a year and a half in production and in development. It is every journey of transformation that you're looking for, whether you're looking to lose weight, whether you're looking to get lean and shredded, men's physique, women's physique, cross training. If you have a goal and you're looking to transform your body, it will create a customized transformation path for you for 3 months up to 2 years. Well, you'll never do the same workout twice. And then we'll actually coach you through the process day to day to day. So it's the most robust transformation experience ever created, and we are beyond excited to share it with the world.
I'm super excited because I've been looking for an app-based workout partner or coach, essentially, that I can use in my building's gym. Because if not, I just go up there and I do the same routine over and over and over again, because that's all I know how to do. Right. And I've been looking for essentially an app that will give me essentially a personalized training experience. So that is perfect timing.
We've got you covered. Awesome. Also, with whatever equipment you got, if you got access to a CrossFit gym, great. If you got access to an Iron Gym, we've got Iron Gym programs, 2 years of Iron Gym programs, or just body weight. If you're just working out at home, we've got you covered. In fact, we'll send you a code, a promo code. So we've got you covered, buddy.
That'd be great. Do we have one we could share with the audience today, or what could we do in that regard?
Yeah. So here's what we'll want to do. If you just put in self-made, then you can actually try out the app for $1 for the first month. Just give it a try, see what you think, and take yourself through the experience, and you'll see that number one, we've created everything that you need to transform your life right then and there. When it comes to transforming your body, but also the journey is so much easier than most people think. That's cool. I think this would be great.
Awesome. Well, guys, this was a pleasure. This is one of the fastest interviews that I've ever done, where it's just gone by so quickly. I wish we had another hour, but maybe we'll get to do this again another time in the future. And thank y'all so much for taking the time to join us today. Your story is incredibly inspiring, and it's just really cool personally to see what you guys have gone through and what is possible out there. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mike. It was awesome to be here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, gals, thanks for listening. As always, I appreciate you so much. And please give Chris and Heidi some love on social media if you heard this episode, and make sure you go check out the Transform app on iTunes, and I'm sure it's on Android as well. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.